Izzy, and you're watching North International News. Today is Thursday, January 15th. Now here are today's announcements. Mrs. Sobchak will be out of the building, and at 1:30, Miss Helms will also be out of the building. From 8:30 until 11:40, all 5th graders will go to the Henry Ford River Rouge plant. Now here's today's weather and funny birthdays are Dove Cameron, she's an actress and she's turning 19, and Pitbull, and he's a rapper and he's turning 34. Today's sports are tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. Red Wings play Blues, and there is a boys basketball versus Anderson game at 4:30. Today's pledge leaders will introduce themselves. Please stand and face the flag in your classroom or on the monitor. This month's IB word is risk taker. We believe in ourselves and look at new ideas with enthusiasm. When were you a risk taker? Today's brain teaser is this. The fishmonger is 1.8 meters tall. He wears size 8 shoes and wears XXL shirts. What does he weigh? Yesterday's brain teaser was this. What yes or no question can never be answered yes? If you figured it out, it was, are you asleep? Today's quote is this. You can't reach your goals if you don't try. That's by Kay Silverman. To leave you with a smile on your face, here's today's joke.
What did the polar bear order for lunch?
I don't know. What did the polar bear order for lunch?
An iceberger.
Thank you for watching our International News. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, have a safe and pleasant day. Bye. Stay tuned for our showcase of influential women.
Welcome to our Women's History Museum. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Sophie. For the next 20 minutes, we will be taking a walk across the timeline of history dating all the way back to the ancient Egyptian times and travel swiftly across time. Along the way, we will meet 9 women who are, in our eyes, have overcome great barriers and were heroes of their time.
Let's travel back to 1740 BCE and meet our first hero, Hatshepsut.
Hi, I'm Hatshepsut. Now about you, the Pyramid of Giza, that you don't know who I am. That is because once you get to know me, you'll realize that I am probably the oldest living person you ever did know of. I was born near the time of 1490 BCE, and I was the most famous for being the only 3rd woman of Pharaoh of Egypt. I was the daughter of King Thutmose I, who passed away when I was a child. I became one of the leaders of Egypt when I was 12 years old and married my half-brother, Thutmose II. Soon after we had our first son, my husband/brother passed away. This left me alone, a woman, raising my son alone and taking on the jobs of being Egypt #1 in command. Even though things were looking tough for me, being an okay leader and mother were not on my agenda. Most of the people were outraged that their country was being ruled by a woman pharaoh alone. Therefore, I merely erased the problem. When being seen in public, I dressed myself to look like any other male pharaoh. I had all of my carvings and portraits to picture me as a man too. With the gender problem erased, I was able to do many things as the ruler of Egypt in a time of technological world development. I oversaw many trade expeditions and built big building projects that helped to obtain my country's world domination. While leading my country, I was a role model to my son, Thutmose III, who, after my rule, became as great of leader as I was, not to brag. I lived my life to the fullest in honor of my father and never forgot him along the way. Before I passed to my 40s, I ordered for my father to be reburied alongside me. I was loyal and showed true leadership because I stuck with my father even though he was dead throughout my whole life. I overcame barriers and was able to keep my country thriving through it all. Evidence of my life is very little due to the fact that raging leaders who found out about my acts of treason by dressing as a man during my rule. They were outraged. They attempted to burn every piece of evidence showing my existence. They did a pretty good job. You silly modern humans did not even know of my past existence until 1822, when a scientist was able to decode a piece of hieroglyphics explaining the story of my life. I was a hero because I wisely found a way to avoid disapproval and became a role model to both the people of my country and my beloved son.
Thanks, Cleopatra. Now let's travel to the time. Thank you, Hatshepsut.
Thank you,
Let's travel to Cleopatra.
I am the Egyptian goddess, legend queen, I am Cleopatra. I was born into the Egyptian ruling family in the year 69 BCE. My father unfortunately died when I was a teenager, and that left me as Queen of Egypt. Sadly, with my luck, I had to share the crown with my nasty 10-year-old brother Ptolemy the King. Even though my brother wasn't smart, his advisors were. He had me tricked and banished from the country. Even though at the moment I felt slightly defeated and lost, I was determined to seek revenge upon my little brother. I wasn't going down that easy. My determination alone would not be enough, unfortunately. I needed help in order to take down the forces of my brother, and the only name I thought to call was the beloved Roman ruler, Julius Caesar. However, not just anyone could go up to Caesar's palace and start friendly conversation with him. I wisely snuck in to find Caesar in the palace, rolled up in a carpet. Even though Caesar was at first caught off guard, I used my charismatic powers and persuaded him to retrieve my Egyptian throne. Once we had knocked out my brother and I was in power again, Caesar and I lived a tragic love story. For a time, we were happily married with our new son, Caesarion. But the happiness didn't last long when the Roman people were enraged due to Caesar's affair with the Queen of Egypt, and decided to kill him off. Alone again, I needed help keeping control of my country. That's when I met the new Roman leader, Mark Antony. Mark was the only lover in my life other than Caesar. We had lots of fun traveling around our land, disguised as regular citizens. Mark and I played more than we worked until Octavian got into the way. We had to run out of the country for our lives until being captured again for the final time. Mark's love for me was so strong that he decided he never wanted to live without me. When he received false news that I had been killed, Mark assassinated himself. When I heard the tragic news of Mark's death, I decided to also end my life with a bang. I took a king cobra and let it bite me to end my life. When the Roman guards found my body, they were confused, scared, and burning mad. I had ended my life on the winning end of things just as my plan had gone. Charisma and determination led me to a memorable and eventful life still remembered by many today. I am a hero because even when my struggles within my love life and other social politics got into the way, I always made sure to keep my country on top.
Thank you, Cleopatra. Let's go to Joan of Arc.
Good day to you. I am Joan of Arc, savior of France, and its good King Charles. I was born into a highly religious family in 1412 in the village of Dormy, France. My 3 brothers and I were always devoted to God, but when I was 12, my love for religion was heightened even more when something miraculous happened. I heard the voices of 3 saints, Michael, Catherine, and Margaret, speaking to me. When this was happening, France was at war with England. The French throne was under dispute between French King-to-be Prince Charles VII and King Henry VI of England, who was complied Burgundy. My village had unfortunate fate to be on the border of French and the British territories. The saints told me to go to Prince Charles and offer him my services. My age, only 16, and gender made it hard to believe that I could be any help to France. So I was thrown out of the castle. I was determined to play my part in the French victory over England, and I was able to get back in the castle after a year of military training in 1429. Charles then gave me some men, including my brothers, and I fought bravely for my country. After 2 battles in Orleans, the French War Council didn't want me to return to the battlefield. I decided to be courageous and return to the battle despite what the council told me. I laid siege on England's stronghold in Les Tourles in 1429. I showed true courage when I was shot through the neck with an arrow and continued to fight, leading to the French victory, but my good fortune did not last. Prince Charles was crowned king. Some said I, of all people, was a heroine and should be burned to the stake for wearing men's clothes. I was arrested and I refused to accept their terms of release, which I could have never let me fight for the King's Charles again. I sat for 1 year in prison before I agreed, but I could not do what they told me. I put back on men's clothes and then was burned at the stake the morning of May 30th, 1431. I'm still remembered for being courageous and determined, and I'm looked upon as a hero to many women.
Hello, I'm Catherine the Great of Russia. No, I was not a power-hungry communist or a weak leader like my son. I was the creator of the golden age of Russia, an intellectually and beautifully and physically beautiful time, and expanded Russia's boundaries through Turkey. I was born on May 2nd, 1729, to minor German royalty. My father was always out fighting, and my mom cared more about my little brother than me. Instead of being nurtured by my mom, I had to persevere through her criticisms and invested my time in studying. When my little brother died, my mom still didn't love me, but rather saw me as a step stool for her climb up the social ladder. After many attempts with suitors, Mom finally set me up with future Emperor Peter III of Russia, and to be honest with you, he was a selfish brat. We had our first child, Paul, on September 20th, 1754. My husband and I did not get along. I was confined to my room half the time, while my husband led the country to ruin, causing riots near the palace. I took the reins of my country by orchestrating a coup to overthrow him. It was quite successful, if I do say so myself. Of course, I couldn't rule with the ever-looming threat of my husband, so I had him killed just a few days after he resigned. I was finally the ruler of a nation, a poor, starving, unsophisticated, and overlooked nation. I first turned my attention to the surrounding countries. Poland, I decided, was in the way of my country's success, so I got rid of it in the Treaty of 1772, splitting it between Prussia and Russia. Turkey felt threatened by Russia's new presence on the map, so they decided that instead of being diplomatic, they wanted to kill us instead. We had a few battles, but we made peace after the treaty, ending the war for good. After I finished with that problem, I thought about the welfare of my country. I felt empathy towards the poor peasants and farmers, and I decided to make my country culturally savvy. I had free schools built in poor areas and a girls' school built for Russian nobles. Ballet and orchestra houses were built in Moscow and St. Petersburg and sponsored my cultural programs. However, tragedy struck. After decades of ruling and spending time with my family, I died in my bathroom on the 17th of November, 1796. So far, I am one of the most respected rulers in Russian history, and my legacy reminds modern-day Russians of what they could change in order to return to their former glory.
Now we're going to take a nearly 300-year leap to Clara Barton.
Hi, I'm Claire Barton. I was born on Christmas Day in 1821. I lived in a small house in Oxford, Massachusetts, and was the youngest of 5 siblings. Since I was a young girl, I've always wanted to be a nurse and help people in need. My first opportunity came when my brother fell off a ladder and after he became very sick. I spent 2 years by his bedside until he finally got better. Later in my life, I became one of the first women to work in the United States government as a clerk. I got paid the same amount as men doing the same job, which was very unusual for the time. Not to brag, but my greatest accomplishment, that are still remembered by many of you today, was for being a woman nurse of the Civil War battlefield and creating the American Red Cross. I founded the American Red Cross in order for Americans to be able to gain help when disaster unfairly hit their lives. Before I created the Red Cross, my country was in a bloody civil war, North against South. Being a woman, at first I wasn't allowed to nurse directly on the battlefield. I had to beg the government for lots of time until I was finally granted permission to bring my nursing skills where they were needed most. I helped heal thousands of wounded soldiers in the Civil War and received many awards for my work, but it was surely not the recognition that was most rewarding to me. Throughout my life, I was courageous and intelligent because I overcame obstacles of being a woman in order to be able to help soldiers on the battlefield, and I used my knowledge and pursued education throughout my life to help others.